Hi everyone, my name's Nate, and I'm going to talk with you this session about our COVID and PPE plan for the winter season. Thank you all for joining us. So we're going to talk about what ASBNC is going to require of everyone, what constitutes appropriate PPE, our screening process, and kind of what all of that will look like. Our plan has all been designed with keeping everybody safe. That's kind of been at the forefront of our mind. So we'll go through all of that process, and then you'll have a chance to ask questions at the end. Awesome. So first thing, masks are going to be required for everything we do this winter at ASBNC. That counts for the participant, the volunteer, staff member, family coming, CI, caregivers, everybody needs a mask. That means a respiratory droplet mask, something like a triple layer, or some of the masks will have a filter that you can slide in. A surgical mask is great. We're working on sourcing some Alpine specific triple layer neck warmers that also meet under the same regulation. What doesn't meet that qualification is something like a buff. It's going to need to be triple layer for droplet protection, and something that we'll wear at all times. If you need a break from your mask, everybody's welcome to step back, ski down the slope, whatever it may be, 15 feet from that lesson, and they need to be 15 feet from anyone. You can then take your mask off, take a breather, and when you're ready, you pop your mask back on, and off you go. Specifically for like Alpine, if you're in the lodge, you're on the lift, you're working with your participant, masks have to be on at all times. This, like I said, is a requirement for our participants. It's something that we have required right along through, and for the most part, we haven't had really any issues with the mask being on. So might mean having to remind our participants to put their mask back up or keep it up over the nose, but it does need to cover from your nose down to your chin. So I know masks can be kind of debated depending on personal feelings. I understand that, but we're not here to debate whether they're effective or not. Our belief is that they are beneficial, and it's a precaution that we as a program have decided we're going to require of everyone. The whole reason we want to have the mask is that the whole transmission behind COVID-19 is through respiratory droplets. And what the mask is doing is making a barrier so that as those respiratory droplets come out of your mouth, the mask can kind of catch them and knock them down. We're not saying that like the mask catches all of any COVID droplets and prevents transmission from happening in every possible way. But the whole point is that it takes your droplets, drops them down. The average person, as they're talking, they sneeze, they cough, it can shoot those droplets out up to 6 feet. And that's where the 6-foot rule comes from for distancing, is to keep droplets from getting to someone else. So to kind of demonstrate how this works, we're going to show you a quick video. It's going to show you someone without a mask, someone with a single layer mask, a double layer mask, and then a surgical mask. And you'll actually see the droplets come out of the person with no mask and see what gets through as you add layers. And you can really see that with the surgical mask or the triple layer mask, it really does a pretty good job of dropping those droplets down and making that kind of transmission zone much smaller. So let's take a look at that. So this video can really see and get an idea for just how far like the droplets come out. And you can see with each layer of protection that the mask adds, how many of those droplets are caught or pushed down. And then it just shows you really well like, what the mask is actually doing. So you really see that surgical mask provides a very high level of barrier for those droplets. Very little coming through that. Obviously, the more layers you have, the better it's going to be. One of the things that we did notice over the summer and fall programming is that people remove their masks to cough or sneeze. That defeats the whole purpose of the mask. It's not maybe pleasant to cough or sneeze into the mask, but that's the whole kind of reason it's there. You can see with the sneeze just how many droplets are created and get out there. So leaving that mask in place is really important. All right. So as I was saying, appropriate mask is that droplet protection mask. So really anything with 3 layers, surgical mask, N95, all of those are going to have that higher level of protection. Some of the things other things we noticed during programming, really important that you try not to touch the mask itself. You want to handle it just by the straps. You can link one ear, catch your other ear. If it has a metal band, then great, go ahead and close that down. And then make sure you're covered all the way from your nose down to your chin. The metal bands actually work really well at keeping droplets from going up. Kind of really catches everything. So that is really important. If that is kind of the one area to touch. But then it's super important not to, touch that while you're wearing the mask. You should assume that once you put the mask on, that mask is contaminated. It is catching whatever droplets. And it's also important to remember that the mask that we're wearing, that's here to prevent spread of disease from us to other people. It's not necessarily there to stop us from catching it, but it touches our respiratory droplets, knocks them down. So we're doing this for everyone else. It's not as much about that this is going to block, you from getting it. It does help with that, but we're really wearing these to keep us from spreading any type of disease. With the reusable ones, once you've worn them, you should wash them. So when you take it off again, you don't want to touch the front. You only want to touch the ear loops, just to keep that contamination risk down, because we're again assuming you've been breathing on it, it's contaminated. The other important thing to consider with any of the masks is that once they get wet, they lose their efficiency in how they operate. So for winter programming, we all know we've come in from the mountain, we have our face mask on for keeping us warm. It's probably gotten a little damp from our breathing. We're going to need to swap them out at lunchtime if you're there all day, or if you free ski before lessons, you might want to have a couple masks with you just to swap them. Now, if you're cold outside and you want to wear a buff over your mask, that's perfectly fine. You just want to make sure that your mask is on appropriately, and then you can put the buff on over for warmth. Anything like that is fine. The masks that we're looking at are designed for alpine use, so they'll help keep you warm. They're neoprene, so they'll help wick the moisture away, and should be a good option. I want to show one more quick video that just shows how quickly transmission can happen. Then this is with people trying to take precautions, just to kind of really show how quickly and easily things can be spread, and why taking all these precautions can really help.
We're here today to do a fun experiment where we show how easy it is to spread germs. We're going to demonstrate this using a powder that glows underneath the black light. As you can see, the only item in our experiment that has been contaminated with powder is the water bottle. In this experiment, the powder represents our bacteria, our germs, and viruses. So we can demonstrate how easy it is to spread this, even if we're running into the grocery store with proper PPE and protective equipment and grabbing one item. Okay, I have placed my protective equipment on correctly, And now I'm gonna run in and buy some water at the grocery store. So here's my water. Beep. I'm gonna take my pen and pay for it. I got my receipt. Sign for that. Thank you. Open this up. Just get a drink. I've been shopping. Okay, so now I've gone out to my car and I am ready to take off my mask and gloves. And I want to show you how important it is that we do this in the right order, in the right way. So let's see how I did. I'm going to turn on my black light here. Oh my goodness. So starting off, we knew it was on the one surface. Look at my gloves, my mask, right here on the outside of my glove, the receipt. Oh my goodness, look at this pen. The poor person who uses this pen after me. Oh, and look at my hands. Oh my goodness, the worst part about this is when I removed my mask, I did not use the proper procedure, which means that that must be on my face too. COVID-19 spreads through getting in your nose and in your mouth. And now this is really close to my nose. But it doesn't have to be that way. I've been a nurse for 14 years, and I'd like to give you some tips and tricks for how to put on the personal protective equipment and take it off safely so that you don't have to be afraid to go to the grocery store. So let's talk about the cloth masks. It all starts with our hand hygiene. It's always all about hand hygiene. Either our alcohol foam, hand sanitizer, or good old soap and water. So we want to clean our hands before we put the mask on. Hand hygiene is the #1 way to prevent the spread of any infection. And that's true with COVID as well. So you want to let your hands dry if you've used hand sanitizer. And then you're going to start with your mask by holding it on the ear loops. And you're going to loop one ear first, and then wrap around to the other ear. And you want to make sure that the mask actually covers your nose and your chin and your mouth. If you have a metal piece in your nose, you want to make sure that it seals over the bridge of your nose. Those of you who wear glasses, this will also help prevent your glasses from getting foggy. You want to make sure that there's as good of a seal as possible around the edges of your face and underneath your chin so that nothing is getting up underneath there. Now let's talk about gloves. Since I haven't touched any other surfaces besides my mask, I don't need to wash my hands. But had I needed to touch something in between putting on my mask and my gloves, I would want to hand sanitize again. Now we can go about our business. All right, we are done with our shopping, and now we're getting ready to take off our personal protective equipment safely. So the very first thing you want to do is take off your gloves. These are dirty, so anything on my glove is dirty. So I want to keep glove to glove when I take off the first glove. I'm pinching it here, and I'm going to pull this off inside out and drop it into the trash. My hand is clean because I cleaned my hands and did proper hand hygiene before putting my gloves on. So I'm going to skin to skin, put my fingers inside the glove on my skin, pulling these inside out as I go through, and then just dropping the rest of the glove inside the trash. Next, guess what? Hand hygiene. I'm going to use some alcohol to clean my hands before I touch my face. So I've been out in public, and this has all been exposed to the public. So I want to start with one ear loop with my clean hands and remove one ear loop, and the other ear loop with my other hand. And I'm going to drop this in the trash or in a safe place. If you have a cloth mask and gloves, you can throw these immediately into the washer on the highest heat setting when you get home. These can also be dried in the dryer on the highest setting. Just keep in mind that the elastic might wear out over time. Or you can air dry them. You just want to make sure that they are completely dry before you use them again. After removing your gloves either into the trash or into the washer, next, guess what? We have hand hygiene. I'm using some alcohol foam here, but if you're at home, soap and water lathering up for 20 seconds is best. Now you know all our tips and tricks. Your safety is in your hands. Thank you for doing your part.
All right, so I really like that video. It just shows how kind of quickly and easily, just by touching one item, how many, more items that you touch, how quickly things will spread. Just a really good experiment to show. So we will, like I said, have masks available. This year's prize for coming to our all volunteer gathering is your very own mask. We are working on having additional ones available for sale if you want to buy more than one. We will also make available a regular surgical mask for volunteers, participants, family, whoever, as they come in. We'll have a supply of these at all of our venues, so those will be provided. I want to talk about eye protection next. So that was kind of one thing in the videos I don't talk about, but the mask does a great job of catching our own droplets. But when you're looking at preventing yourself from an infection, you need to basically be able to cover up any mucous membrane. The eyes are often kind of left out of that protection. So for anyone working within 6 feet on that close, kind of that 6-foot personal bubble, or if you're helping to do transfers or any type of hands-on work, we're going to require that you have some type of eye protection. Now that could be like a simple safety glass that has the wraparound lenses. Could be one of the face shields that will cover your mask and your face, which goes on and over. Or your goggles at the mountain will also be adequate, but they must be on and over your eyes whenever you're within that 6-foot bubble. So for alpine, that means on the chair. If you're helping to do the transfer in and out of SIP equipment, anytime you're working in that close proximity, mask and eyes are covered. Should be really simple up at the mountain because we're always wearing goggles, it seems like anyways, and some type of face protection. So that is, I think, just going to be an extra step that'll make sure everyone stays safe. And we're requiring that in that bubble. We will be able to provide face shields. If you want to, do your own type of safety glasses, then anyone, you can go to the store and buy your own. And like I said, goggles do count. Next, I want to talk about gloves. If we're doing transfers, then we're going to require that everyone wears a pair of medical gloves. Otherwise, if you're not like doing hands-on work, then just wearing your winter gloves is fine. If you feel like there's a chance you might be doing some type of hands-on and you want to wear gloves, then great. I think it's another added step that you can take for safety. You just need to make sure that you put your gloves on underneath your winter gloves. These will not necessarily keep you warm, but if you want to wear both, put on the medical gloves first and then put on your winter gloves. Another thing to think about, if you're using your winter gloves, that we might want to wash those more often this year. If you're, have to do some type of hands-on work with your participant, now your gloves are contaminated potentially. So just be aware that you might want to wash those after use. Do want to talk about putting gloves on. One of the things that we're working on getting is small bottles of sanitizer so that everybody can have some with. It's super important to put sanitizer on before and after you've used gloves. You want to start with nice clean hands. So anytime we're going to put gloves on, just grab some sanitizer. You want to make sure that it's dry, your hands are clean. Putting the gloves on is just like any other glove. You want to make sure your fingers are all the way to the end, make sure it fits well. We will be providing all of the medical gloves that are used on lessons with various sizes available. And if you're so choose, you put your winter gloves on, you do the transfer, whatever it is you're going to do. Once you're done, your gloves, like your mask, are now considered to be contaminated. The video showed grabbing right at the wrist, pulling it down. The one thing that I like to change is I hold on to it so it's all in one ball. And then the key is getting that finger underneath so you're only touching the inside of the glove. The outside of the glove is contaminated, the inside's been against your skin. Take it off, throw it in the trash, Regular trash is fine for gloves, but as soon as you're done, grab your hand sanitizer, put some more on, and make sure that you've sanitized and your hands are clean. If we're in the lodge and you can go to the bathroom, like they said, washing is better than sanitizer. If you're using sanitizer, it does need to be at least a 60% alcohol for it to be considered effective. It's really, really important. You can't stress it enough that you just have to clean your hands a lot. For the summer and the fall, basically we said anytime you touch your face, if you sneeze, you take a break, you get a drink of water, obviously if you go to the bathroom, anytime there's some type of change in what you've been doing, just sanitize, put it on, and then your hands are clean. All right, so that's the majority of the PPE that we're going to be using. This will, like I said, all be available at whatever the venue is. The mountain will have a stockpile, and for snowshoe and Nordic, there's a box that will travel around to the venue. Next, I want to cover our sickness and screening policy. For anyone that did any programming summer and fall, you all are very familiar with our weekly or the day before phone call before programming, where we check for any flu-like symptoms. So what's going to happen is everyone, again, including participant, volunteer, staff, CI, family member, whoever is bringing that participant to the venue is going to have to answer a screening questionnaire. This will happen 24 hours in advance of the program. And what will happen is we're working to set up an online version that will be emailed out. You'll click yes or no to all the questions and then basically sign it saying that you've answered all the questions to the best of your ability. That'll get sent in, and we have to have that before you show up at the venue. That way we know that there's no flu-like symptoms, or if somebody has been exposed, that we know that they're not coming to programming. So I'm just going to go over what those questions are so everybody knows what to expect. These are all from the CDC in the state of New Hampshire. So they'll ask, are you currently experiencing any of the following symptoms? Fever, new or worsening cough, shortness of breath, lost sense of taste or smell, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, sore throat. We're also going to ask, are you currently waiting for COVID-19 test results, or have you tested positive? Do you have anyone in your household that has tested positive for COVID-19 or exhibited any of the fever, cough, shortness of breath, any of the cold or flu symptoms? So what we're looking for is if there's someone you're in close contact with, if they are, having symptoms or waiting for a test, just as a precaution and for safety, we ask that you not come. Basically, a yes answer to any of those is an automatic cancel, and we ask that you just stay home. And even if it's not COVID, this year being a rather challenging year, we would like to keep anyone that's sick at home so we're not spreading any type of sickness. We'll mark on the daily venue sheet for the program that, it's a pass or fail. We're not going to record personal health information as to what you answered on those questions on the venue sheet. It'll just show pass or fail. If you do say yes and then are asked not to come to programming, what that means for ASB&C and also specifically for Canon, because this is the policy they've adopted for their open and COVID plan, is that you then have to quarantine for the 14 days. And just to make sure that there's no symptoms. And we also recommend that you go and get a COVID-19 test just for your own kind of peace of mind. Once you're symptom free and you've met your quarantine period, then you're welcome to come back to programming. We will also be doing temperature checks the day of programming. So as you arrive at the venue, either the staff person, the volunteer leader, or the assistant volunteer leader, whoever is assigned for the day, will come do a quick scan of your temp. And the CDC number is 100.4 or above is a cancel, and then you have to go quarantine, and we recommend a test at that point as well. And I know it seems like a whole lot, but not only is this the policy we've used, but Cannon Mountain has adopted this as their COVID policy, and that pertains to all team members. So anyone going up to Cannon is going to have to follow this either way. They're doing temperature checks and screenings as well. So we're just following in line with what the venue is doing for Alpine. and we've adopted that across all programming. All right, so I know that this is a lot of kind of the not fun information about COVID and how we're proceeding, but this setup has worked really well for us in the fall and summer seasons. We only turned away one person due to temperature checked, and we have a pretty, I think, fair policy about how to confirm whether the temperature reading is accurate or not. And we only turned one person away due to the screening. Overall, it helped us stay safe. It cut us out on programming. And that's the main goal through all of this, is to maintain the highest level of safety while still providing our mission to enhance the lives of people with disabilities through sport and recreation. So I appreciate all of your understanding and helping us through this. Know that, you know, our participants and people are looking up to us as the leads on their lessons, or the team member at the mountain or at a venue. So people are watching, and let's set a good example, and we'll get through this this season together. We'll have some fun out on snow, and we'll keep everyone safe. All right, thank you.